I think that I think our school is probably reflective of the data that we see currently in the news, and that it's very common for at least 20% of students to be dealing with some sort of, diagnosable, whether it be anxiety or depression or some sort of diagnosable mental illness. So I think that Newburgh is not an exception to that, for sure.
I mean, is Newburgh worse than other schools? I can't really say, but I think I'm hearing a lot from a lot of other high schools, and of course we hear it a lot in the media and across the nation, that this is becoming a bigger concern.
So this is where I go when I'm super overwhelmed during like classes that way. And on that side of the school, this is where like I sit for like 10 or 15 minutes. And another place I go to, this is where like I have like my anxiety attacks and stuff. Like the office really stresses me out. If I'm ever called to the office, like I come here and then like the teacher in here like goes there. Then we kind of have like a whole meeting because I get way too much like anxiety to even go in the office.
Just a few years ago, I was diagnosed with both anxiety and depression, and that was kind of like an awakening thing for me. Like I've always kind of, thought of mental illnesses as like something that I wasn't a part of, kind of just disassociated myself from that, because there is a lot of stigma associated with mental illnesses, So it was just really kind of an awakening moment for me. Like it's not just something that other people struggled with. Like now I was part of that community as well.
Well, I think overall students are more open about their mental health challenges, and I think that's a really good thing. I think it's good to be able to say I'm not okay, and to be open and talk about it. I definitely have seen an increase, in the last few years of students coming forward with anxiety, depression, and those kinds of mental health concerns, suicide ideation, and suicidal attempts, and obviously a few completions as well. So.
Also, everything is just so much more overwhelming. Like school is harder and more competitive than it's ever been, and I think that's the cause of the major increase in anxiety recently. So, especially with students who have much higher expectations put upon them and hold themselves to much higher standards. Students who want to go to good schools, students who are high achieving, those tend to be students with really high levels of anxiety, just because they put so much pressure on themselves. And when people see other people achieving high things, and achieving good things, they put so much more pressure on them, and they kind of put them into a box like, you're good at school, you're good at this, you have to achieve that, and that contributes to really high levels of anxiety.
With the new schedule that we have, I just feel like we've gotten a lot more homework. And saying that, I just feel like teachers are not thinking that we have 6 other classes that we need to do homework. And with every single day that's going by, our homework just keeps on piling up, and we never have time to finish a class.
From a senior standpoint, this is what I'm going to give you. So school, it's not really the schoolwork itself that is giving me the stress, because if I could just like tunnel vision and focus on school, that would be amazing, because I've been doing this for 4 years now and it's just that fine, but it's the way that the schoolwork interacts with all the other stuff a senior needs to do. So like, for example, right now I got, this senior project. I play in a pit orchestra for the musical. I play my saxophone in a jazz combo in Portland. I I just got a new job. I'm working another job right now. And, you know, you have friends, you have your family, I have a girlfriend, and sometimes I sleep. And so it's just kind of the way schoolwork interacts with all that stuff. I feel like teachers don't really take into account that seniors have so much on their plate, like college and scholarships too, that I need to take care of in an interaction with this schoolwork.
I know that there is a lot of kids that do take like a lot of AP classes, and a lot of them, like I would say maybe not a lot, but like a few of them, they do have like an easy time with the workload. It's not really that hard for them. But there's some kids like me and others that I know that even with like normal classes, like not as advanced classes, even if they have like a smaller schedule, it's very like difficult to maintain like balanced time. It's a lot of discipline to be able to balance a workload and stuff like that. So overall, I would think that the more that you get work-wise, it does add on your stress level as a student.
I know one teacher just has very strict like things, and it's really hard for me when like I'm feeling really overwhelmed in class or like super anxious and I just want to like take a break, but you can't because you have deadlines, and it's hard to like talk to them about it because they don't what is that word, like they don't understand.
Well, if you're already kind of having some sort of mental health issue or concern or whatever, and then you add stress from high school work or college work or whatever, pressure that there is for due dates, or pressure in the amount of work, or pressure, or even just to be able to focus in class. Like if you have a lot going on anyway and it's difficult to focus and then you get further behind, it adds to, or it exasperates the condition. And so
Teachers, they expect a lot out of you and don't like conform or whatever, like to like what you need sometimes, and they don't listen to you when you talk.
I don't know, I just think teachers should be more considerate of students. I just think they're not, I mean, although they're doing a job of teaching us and giving us homework, it's just they're not thinking the workload that we already have. And saying that is just way too much stressing. It's very stressing just doing homework every single day, nonstop. And honestly,
I think today, especially in high school, students are so self-conscious of everything with like social media and stuff, and like there's a lot of judgment that goes on in high school. That's just how high school is.
I think a huge part of it is that there's just so much more exposure today, like in the media, with things that are giving teenagers a bad self-images, and I think that impacts the way we treat each other too. Like the stuff we see on the media, when it desensitizes us, it doesn't only make us feel bad about ourselves, but it makes us treat others poorly when we see them face to face too. So I think that's a huge problem.
there's a lot more pressure on kids because of social media, and I think it can put high expectations that are unrealistic and really not real indicators of what life is really like, and or even what relationships are really like if they're through social media.
So how do you see the culture of kindness and friendliness within the student body?
I think we treat each other pretty bad. I think we need to improve a lot on that. And the environment that New River High School has is not a positive one. And it just brings down each other.
I feel like a lot of the upperclassmen here at like NHS are only really nice to each other, to the other upperclassmen, and they don't really like pay attention to like the lower classmen. I feel like they're really neglected and sometimes bullied. You know, I've seen kids like throw like younger kids like against walls and like tell them to get out of the way. So I really feel like it's only amongst like your peers. It's not really like a shared amongst each other, like everyone in the school. Yeah.
I see it in select friend groups. Like you have your group of friends and they're all very generally supportive of each other, but generally just people to people. Everyone usually just kind of keeps to themselves unless they're provoked by something.
I know some really negative things are typically like thrown around in friend groups, kind of like making fun or poking fun at mental illnesses, and I just kind of, you know, as someone who has a couple mental illnesses, like, you know, it feels bad and it hurts me, and so that kind of degrades our relationships over time, you know, without them even knowing it, really. So it has a huge negative impact on my relationships with my friends and my peers.
I feel like they don't take it seriously. I see everyone joking around with it, and people throw out words that they shouldn't, like, oh, I have anxiety, oh, I have this and that, and they're not using those words seriously when others are going actually through that, and it's hard.
Even when we do, it's just made fun of whenever we've had like people who have come in to like educate. No one's actually listened or participated in the activities that we have to do because they think it's all a joke. It's super frustrating.
With stuff like this, where you can empower others and take part in empowering yourself, I think it's really awesome to give students an extra boost of confidence. With the recent events that happen at Parkland and so many others that happen across the country, we just want to make sure that there's a sense of community here so students never have to feel like they're alone and never feel like they have to punish other people for not loving them, and we just want to spread love and community to make sure we'll feel together here.
I would say that I would include people in everything, or I would try to really be very friendly. I would try to put an effort towards being friendly, try to give it friendly advice or to be friendly to others, especially kids that you don't normally like hang out with or see in the day, and especially give out like a helping hand.
I think it's really hard as a peer to handle and to deal with and to talk about the mental illnesses of other peers and to help them through that, because a lot of people just aren't open about those type of things. So it's hard to even know, you know, as a friend, what your other friends are dealing with in terms of mental illnesses and mental health. It's just a really hard thing to notice, and it's a really hard thing to talk about because people just aren't open about it, and most people aren't willing to share. So a lot of those things just don't get addressed, like from peer to peer or from friend to friend.
It's just human nature to kind of like hide those feelings. So I think we're doing, to an extent, a good job, but there's not a whole lot we can do.
I think there have been some efforts this year, some last year, but this year even more so, to equip staff at least with a basic understanding of how to respond if they feel like they see a student that's dealing with mental health, you know, maybe severe depression, or maybe a student has voiced that they're thinking about some kind of self-harm. And
in the past, we have provided information in regards to, for example, Lines for Life, where students can do team-to-team text, or they can actually call national hotline numbers where they can get help. And we actually have Providence Behavioral Health coming to the school at least 2 times per week to do screenings and to see students whose parents and students have agreed to have seen here at school. In addition to having Yamhill County Family and Youth Services provide some services here at school.
Well, school counselors, mental health is a big component of our training. I think, well, at least I'm really fortunate to have come through a program where the mental health component was a huge part of our training. So a lot of supervision and videotaping ourselves counseling and doing all of that so that we are trained professional counselors. But we don't provide long-term therapy because that's not what we're here for. But you said the staff. So our staff has some training. We have ongoing trainings or different things that come up, like mental health first aid and ASSIST, which is applied suicide intervention training, and even collaborative problem solving, which is talking with students about the problems that they're having being students and how to come to solutions together, but in the process of talking, you know, it opens up conversations.
So far, all of my teachers have been really understanding, and it's actually been a really positive experience working with them, like coming up with plans in place to put in place, like what to do when I get anxious and where can I go and things like that, so that it doesn't have such a huge impact on my grades. So it actually has been really nice working with teachers and staff.
How do you see the school try to help struggling students or raise student morale?
I don't see that very much. And when I do, it's where the point when I see someone crying. And it's just hard that teachers don't take their time and ask students, how are you doing? How are you feeling about this class? Until we're at the point that we're crying or just feeling overwhelmed by it.
Is it a large problem? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people here who are depressed and are anxious, and they don't really know how to do that, like deal with that. They don't have the skills developed, and their friends can't really help them out that much because they don't know either. Teachers could help them, but they're so busy with other things. Counselors can help them, but they have such a large range of tasks that they need to attend to. It's very hard for them to focus on mental health. And no one has the skills. No one knows what to do. So I think if there was a dignified program or system or teacher or specialist that specifically dealt with mental health and maybe taught people at the high school skills to prevent it, I think student life would thrive.
I think the staff at NHS does a really good job at helping kids with mental illnesses, but only when the students come to them. I feel like they can do a much better job at, you know, trying to seek out different people who wouldn't necessarily be open enough or confident enough to go out and seek help from them. I think that there needs to just be a lot more effort put into, you know, reaching out to people and making sure they're okay.
You know, as adults, we're eager to help and really want to be able to help make those connections to get you the support that you need.
So I would say youth are amazing. Students are amazing, and we all adults learn from them. And what I would say is find a good friend or someone that you trust, and maybe you need someone to go along with you. Maybe you need someone to say, hey, like, you know, this is going on. Man, who should I talk to, or you know, or what should I do? And so supporting each other, and I can tell you that every adult that I know in this building is willing to help.
That it's important to reach out to someone, and if they reach out to a friend and then a friend reaches out to an adult, that's okay, because that's what a friend would do, and they would do the same. But to reach out to anyone, you know, a caring adult in the school or in their family or a neighbor or something. So that would be my first thing, but just say talk to someone. You know, you're interviewing me because I'm a school counselor, and I would just say that I would just encourage any student to come and get help if they need help. We don't want anybody to feel like they have no one, and so just talk to people, talk to an adult, reach out and talk to your school counselor or a teacher too. I mean, there's a lot of the teachers are caring too. They want to be there. So that would be just, I want to end with that.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key. I think relationship is the key. And when students feel like they have somebody that cares about them and that cares about what's going on with them, then they're going to feel like they can go to that person.
Letting them know that you're there for them. You don't have to say anything, just physically be there for them. Be able to, like, hold their hand, give them a hug, whatever they need, make them laugh. Sometimes it's easier to just kind of not think about it. Be there to like provide that emotional relief, cheer them up a bit, and then if they decide that they do want to talk, then talk with them, and that helps. I think that peers are like the most important thing for somebody to have. Sometimes it's hard to go to family or another adult.
I do not want to give advice that I would not take for myself. But the one I think I've been holding on to is that no matter what happens, it's not going to be worth it. It's not going to be important within 5 years or whatever. Just try your best right now, and although you're trying to go for this goal and it doesn't turn out the way you want to, it's going to be all right. At the end, you're going to turn out just fine.
It's okay to talk about not being okay.